Now, one of the issues that many drivers have in their driving test is making a decision on whether to stop or go when a light changes from green to orange or amber. When that happens, in that split second, you need to make a decision whether to put the brakes on and stop or whether to continue through the traffic lights. And getting the decision wrong might mean going through a red light, or it might mean stopping over the line. So when looking at stopping distances, your total stopping distance is comprised of the distance that you travel while you're responding to the changed traffic light, so when it goes from green to orange / amber, plus you've got the actual braking distance that it takes for the car to come to a stop. Now, your reaction time can vary, and that depends on whether or not, as a driver, you were anticipating that change of traffic light or whether it caught you by surprise. It can also depend on your age, and here we're assuming that younger people probably have faster reflexes than older people, and whether your attention was focused on driving at the time or whether you were looking somewhere else. And a further factor is the cognitive load on you at the time. So whether you were trying to deal with multiple things at once, whether you were speaking on the phone or talking to a passenger or somebody in the back of the car that was taking your attention away from the actual task of driving. Now, the actual braking distance will be dependent on a number of things. The formula for scrubbing off all that speed is dependent on the weight of your car, the speed you were travelling before you put your foot to the brake, the efficiency of your vehicle's braking system, the slope or the gradient of the road, and the actual road surface, whether it was gravel, whether it was wet, whether there was debris on the road, the level of response from you as a driver, as in how hard you press the brake pedal, how good your tyres are, the pressure of your tyres, whether you maintain your tyre pressures properly, and a number of other factors. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're focusing primarily on the vehicle's braking distance rather than the driver's reaction time. So we're assuming that the driver has already noted that the traffic light has changed and now needs to decide whether there's sufficient distance to stop or not. So before braking, you need to have checked in your central mirror for following vehicles. A safe driver will always do this pre-check when entering a potential braking zone. So if a vehicle is following closely behind you and poses a potential danger to you, this might influence the intensity of your braking response, as in how hard you put your foot on the brake, or it may cause you to decide to continue through the intersection. So you must remember your stopping distance may be less than the capability of the vehicle travelling behind you. So after you've realised that the traffic light has changed to orange or amber, have a look for the solid white line on the road as you approach the traffic lights. If you have reached the solid white line and you're travelling at or close to the speed limit, then you're probably too close to stop, so continue through. But if you have not yet reached the solid white line, check your mirror for any closely following vehicles, and if safe, apply your brakes appropriately. So the whole key here is to have a look at that white line. If you've reached the solid white line, you're too close to stop. If you haven't reached it, you can put the brakes on. And what we're looking at on this slide is a list of the major intersections around the Joondalup CBD. And the key items on this table are the length of the white line and the required braking distance. So as you can see, in most cases, the line length exceeds the required braking distance. So if you were to apply your brakes while you could still see a bit of road before the white line started, then you could confidently stop in the required distance. In some cases, in a small number of cases, the braking distance exceeds the length of the white line. Now in those cases, the discrepancy is only about 4 or 5 metres. Now, when you're approaching the white line, you can't actually see all of the road in front of you. So from the driver's seat, you probably can't see 3 or 4 metres in front. So when you perceive that you've actually reached that solid white line, you haven't actually reached the line. There's still several metres of road between your car and the white line. It's just that you can't see them from the driver's seat. So you can confidently assume that if you can still see a little bit of road prior to the start of the white line, then you can apply the brake and comfortably stop within the required distance without going over the solid line at the traffic lights. If you've reached the solid white line and you can't see any road before that line starts, then you're within that solid white line. You should proceed through the traffic lights, because trying to apply your brakes at that point is only going to result in you stopping over the line at the intersection, and that could result in you failing in your driving test. Now remember, these figures on this table apply to dry roads. So if the road is wet, then you need to adjust your driving accordingly. Okay, so if you've got this far through the recording, I'd like to thank you for your perseverance. It's not the most fascinating of subjects, but it is one that's fairly important, particularly if you want to pass your driving test. So you need to anticipate changes to the traffic lights in advance. Now remember, for most intersections there's going to be a major road and a minor road, and the lights will generally change more quickly on the minor road. A stale green light is likely to change as you approach, and a stale green light is one that's been green for quite some time. So get to know your test area through practice, practice and more practice. And not just any old practice, we need you to aim for perfect practice, because it's perfect practice that makes perfect. Check your central mirror when approaching a potential braking zone. If you're travelling downhill, move your foot from the accelerator pedal to be poised above the brake pedal in anticipation of the traffic light changing. As seen on the previous slide, use the solid white line as a guide for whether to brake or not. Remember that braking distances vary between vehicles, so get to know yours. Above all, remember that it's only a rough guide, as not all solid white lines are the appropriate length, but it helps to alleviate the nerves and assist with decision making in your driving test. So it's better to have that sort of strategy than no strategy at all. So congratulations on making it through to the end, and thank you very much for watching. Please do me a favour and subscribe using the button on the screen, and help to spread the word. See you next time.